I was told when I came in not to bother with college students. College students were not interested in what we were doing and would not be interested in the onboarding process. YSU has proven that wrong beyond a shadow of a doubt.
The work that you do is really significant in terms of the actual outcomes, research outcomes, that kind of thing. But I think it's also just very meaningful for the entire library. You are contributing knowledge back to the library, right? Like the things that you transcribe become part of what the library has. We've now been able to share that with all of our partners here in the library. And in fact, Lauren and I got to present to the Librarian of Congress, who is the top dog this month. And we were able to share the story of YSU.
So Penguin Pulse has been wonderful for us because we've been able to post volunteer opportunities and students take those, and it's really been helpful because we have so many volunteer opportunities. The students that have volunteered for us have been amazing. They show up, they do the work. A lot of times they ask and they learn also, and we're getting a lot of repeat volunteers that come back and help us on a regular basis.
Penguin Pulse is fantastic because it allows blood services of the American Red Cross to promote our blood drives and encourage volunteers to sign up to register donors and provide a great experience for those on campus who are coming out to donate.
The students who volunteer they're really enthusiastic and passionate about what we do. You can tell they find it really rewarding to be able to help the local youth get supplemental STEM education. They are super proactive, super helpful. We know that they can handle anything we ask them to do.
They're just a treasure trove for us. We value them very much, and it is a mutually advantageous relationship that we have, so it really benefits the volunteers who are looking for experience in the acute care hospital setting, and it greatly benefits our patients and our staff at our hospitals.
The volunteers, they've honestly been so helpful. They've been energetic. One of our events we had was a luau, and so some of the students were encouraging the older adults to get up and dance with them, so they've really been wonderful. And for opportunities like with working with older adults, you definitely want people who are energetic, who are compassionate, and who are patient as well.
Penguin Pulse has been incredibly helpful. So Lexi actually set us up on Penguin Pulse right before our Christmas outreach. So with that, we had to have people come in and wrap gifts. And a lot of YSU students signed up through Penguin Pulse, came and helped us, and we were able to bless families in the community. Over 1,000 gifts were wrapped. So it's been extremely helpful.
Welcome everyone, welcome back. If you've been with us all day, welcome to YSU. If you're from off campus, my name is Molly Hartup. I'm director of the Sokolov Honors College and part of the team that helped plan this conference here today. So again, so wonderful to see our students, community partners, faculty, and staff members. Before I introduce to you the moderator for this session, I wanted to first make a quick note about something that those of you who have been with us throughout the day may have noticed, and I even heard some folks commenting on. Something we tried to bring to you here today as part of this Community Engagement Conference was spaces that were a little bit more accessible. You may have noticed and or commented on the subtitles that are running on the PowerPoints in the rooms. It was a little distracting at first to some folks, but we recently learned about this feature that PowerPoint affords us, and we were really excited to embrace it, because even if someone doesn't have to ask for something to be more accessible, we can use this as a tool to be a little bit more universally acceptable or accessible. And so that is why you've been seeing that in some of the spaces. We worked with our students to make sure everybody was up to speed on using that tool, and we're hoping that might have been helpful to some folks in the room, but mostly we're really just excited to see you all here and to welcome you for this final plenary panel of our first inaugural YSU Community Engagement Conference. It is my distinct privilege to introduce to you the true driving force behind making today happen. An amazing colleague and friend of mine, Lexi Rager, who is Associate Director of the Sokolov Honors College and extremely passionate about this community engagement work. So I'm going to turn things over to Lexi.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I know, my students were on the ball with that one. All right, so as Molly said, my name is Lexi. I am a staff member here in the Sokolov Honors College. It has been fantastic to help plan our first ever YSU Community Engagement Conference. I told some of our community partners this morning, I said, it's funny, we called it a showcase, and then it became breakout sessions and judges and moderators were like, wow, I think we're having a conference. So now here we are. And as all conferences do, we are very excited to have our keynote panel today. And we have really compiled some rock stars with community engagement here. So what we wanted to showcase throughout the conference today was how campus community partnerships are really bettering our region. And so if you've had the opportunity to go to any other sessions today, you probably heard from YSU faculty, staff, students, and community partners, probably in different sessions and in different ways. So we thought, what a great way to end the day by having them all up here together to kind of bridge all of that, bridge the gap, and show how all these people are actually working together. So I don't know, other than Dr. Dick and Dr. Jordan, that any of these people have met before today. But my guess is that they're going to have similar things to say and really a similar passion for community engagement today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have them do a quick introduction. I'm just going to let you know who we have up here today. So I'm going to start all the way down there with Dr. Jeff Dick, a retired professor of applied geology in the Department of Physics, Astronomy, Geology, and Environmental Science at YSU. So Dr. Dick, do you want to give a short introduction?
Thank you, Lexi. And it's a pleasure to be here. You might not know it, but I'm retired. After 31 years here, last summer I stepped down, but I still find myself here about 3 days out of the week doing all sorts of things. I've always been engaged in the community as a professor here at the university. And this fine gentleman on my left, who will get introduced in a moment, he came up with this great idea of creating what it's called a clandestine burial experiment, if you will. And it all came out of work that Professor Jordan and I have done for local sheriff's department, including Office of the FBI, some sheriffs way out in Greenwood County. And what we did was we take geophysical instruments, ground penetrating radar, electromagnetic conduction, and we help them find clandestine burials. And clandestine burial is what you might think it is. It's a cold case body that's been in the ground for a while, and they finally got some evidence or got some clues as to where it might be, and they reach out to us to help to locate them for them. But that resulted in a research project that Dr. Jordan and I are now doing on my farm. He's really the lead on it. I just have the property for doing it, where we're helping the law enforcement hone their skills on locating buried human remains and other evidence by setting up simulated graves on my farm. Now, before you get all freaked out, we don't put humans on the graves. We're using pigs in the graves, and pigs are a pretty good proxy for humans. And we've got them buried under a wide variety of conditions and circumstances, and we're collecting data to better understand how a body decomposes in the earth, and using the tools that law enforcement will be using to help locate them. And with that, I'm going to pass on, before I talk too much more, I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Jordan, because he really knows the ins and outs of what we're doing.
Thank you kindly. Howdy, everybody. My name is Tom Jordan, and I'm a geophysicist, and I'm a part-time faculty member here at YSU, and full-time working for an engineering company based in Pittsburgh. I also do a whole host of other things. It's amazing. My wife still is around with all the things that I'm involved with. That's neither here nor there. So body farms, that's what we're involved with. Why body farms? Let me give you a little bit of insight into the motivations behind all of this. And it really starts with some statistics. Oh, those rotten statistics. So if you delve into the FBI database, you see that on any given month, there's about 700,000 missing people, and about half of them are children. And within a 12-month period, most of them are found, but there's a small number, about 2,000 to 3,000, that are not found within that 12-month period. And only 3% of them, of that 3,000, are ever found. And so the conclusion or assumption is that they met with an untimely demise. And what we were looking at then was a process to help law enforcement improve their ability to find these missing people. And right now, their success rate is about 30% using cadaver sniffing dogs and geophysical methods. So we want to improve that immensely so that we can bring closure to families where they are missing children, or hopefully find them still with us in this world. And to do that, we've got some really cool high-tech geophysical equipment that has very high resolution, and it's all cutting edge, and it's here at Youngstown State University. It is not available at Penn State, Pitt, Ohio State, West Virginia University. It is here at Youngstown State. So hats off to Youngstown State for allowing us to proceed with such things. And looking forward to talking more about this incredible research project we're involved with. And I will pass it on.
What a fantastic example of community engaged research. So thank you both for being here. Tumi is one of our senior mechanical engineering students, and Tumi got involved in service, right out the gate as a freshman. But Tumi, can you beat body farms?
No, I'm gonna try. Hi guys, so my name is Tumi, as Lexi mentioned. I'm a senior and a mechanical engineering major. I'm interested in machines and like technology, not really body farms, but that's fascinating research, I'm not gonna lie. When I graduate, I plan on going to do my PhD in the fall, so I'm gonna get into material science and engineering. But yeah, I've been involved in engagement in community since my freshman year. I came from Nigeria, and I don't want to give all the story away, but like being involved in that really helped me transition into America and like living as an international student. But more to come like later in this discussion.
All right, next up, one of our fabulous community partners, Chary. Chary and I started working together this year when I had a large group of honor students who wanted to volunteer at community hospice. So it's been great. If you were around earlier today, we had a poster out there, and I think a lot of her students are here today. Actually, they were like literally tracking her down to give her crochet projects, right, Chary?
Absolutely, always. My name is Chary Hively. I like to refer to myself as a perpetual YSU senior. I'll graduate someday, it's fine. I have been involved in community service from a very young age. I was a part of the 4-H program, and if you're familiar with that, one of the tenets of 4-H is pledging your hands to greater service. So I had no choice. I ended up in not-for-profit, where I've been for my entire career. Community hospice and the hospice system, I think there's a lot of hospice myths and stigma, so I'll take a chance real quick just to explain to you what hospice is. Hospice patients have a 6-month prognosis and a terminal diagnosis. They're nearing the end of their journey on this plane. And while I think most people assume that we are very depressed and somber all of the time, it really isn't the case. My coworkers and I got the amazing position to walk through that final journey and fulfill some last-minute requests, desires, needs, whether that is providing a margarita party for one of our patients on the patio, or perhaps it's going fishing. Sometimes it is going for a ride in a 4-wheeler. We find a way to fulfill these needs, and we do so through volunteer support. Because hospice isn't really that old. Hospice is about 50 years old. It's really not that old in the grand scheme of things. and was originally founded by volunteers who thought that we needed to take a look at how we were treating death and dying. So as part of that, we are federally mandated to provide 5% match of our paid hours with volunteer hours, and that's direct patient services. Of course, COVID changed the way that all looked. And so I kind of had this unique opportunity to come in as of January of last year, new to my position, and not knowing what volunteering with hospice looked like before COVID. So I didn't have the box that everybody wanted to cram everyone else into. I got to make a whole new box. My box has glitter on it, of course. However, I don't have that. I had the opportunity to say, why are we engaging our youth? And everyone looked at me like I was insane. And so the majority of my ancillary hours, which are knitting, crocheting, sewing, providing crafts, and non-direct patient support, absolutely 100% come from youth ages preschool up to my college students here at YSU. The community partnership gave me the unique experience to connect with a lot of pre-med and pre-nursing students, but I also have like a few students who are majoring in marketing or I know exercise science and any number of different fields who are truly interested in working with our patients directly. After being told that there was no way college students would ever want to work in the hospice system. And so we learned an important lesson about how we engage with our community and what it looks like and what we need to be doing to make sure that our patients are getting the services that they need and deserve.
Thank you, Chary. So last but certainly not least is Tyler, who is from our athletics office. And it was funny, I was emailing Tyler a few months ago because our athletics department, alongside our honors college, they're providing so many of the community engagement hours from the university. And so I was emailing Tyler to suggest a student athlete for the panel. I was like, oh, it should just be Tyler, because Tyler is really helping to push community engagement across the athletics department. So thank you, Tyler, for being here.
Absolutely. And yes, like Lexi said, I'm Tyler Mettille. I'm the Assistant Director of NCAA Compliance within the YSU Athletic Department. And I oversee all community outreach opportunities throughout our athletic department and assist in getting our student athletes and coaches involved. Sounds like everybody else up here has much more interesting stories of what they're doing and getting involved with and having their students get involved. But yeah, it's in the forefront of our athletics department to make sure that we stay involved in the community and give back to the community that supports us so much. Stands being filled week in and week out is great with our current students, but it's even better when we bring in families from all throughout the community, especially with the vast majority of our sporting events being free admission. So we have a great opportunity to get people involved here on campus and bring more young people onto campus that could be future Penguins. And it's equally as important that our student athletes and our coaches are going out into the community, into the schools, into the places of need, and giving back to show thanks for, show our appreciation for everybody coming out and supporting us. So yeah, I'm excited to be on the panel today. Hopefully answer a few questions.
All right, wonderful. So I have a few questions lined up for our audience, or for our panel, but I'm hoping at the end of today that you will have some time to ask some questions as well. So I guess maybe we'll start with Tyler too for this first question, just in case Dr. Dick and Dr. Jordan have another good thing they're going to pull out of their back pocket. So can you guys all talk a little bit more about what your most impactful experience in the community has been?
Yes, so I would say, I think maybe our most impactful community event so far has been our participation in the Nonviolence Parade. We had a great experience there this year. I got to meet a woman, I believe her name was Penny Wells. Am I correct there, Lexi? Okay. And so we had talked with her. She plans to come back in the fall and speak with some of our student athletes, and we just had such a great experience. I think we have about 525 student athletes within our athletic department. I think we had a little over, right around 300 show up at that opportunity. We had a number of student athletes out on the road and whatnot. But to see our athletes and coaches were out there and administrators engage with so many different community members, because multiple groups were represented there. It was really a great chance for our student athletes to see how much the community members in Youngstown care about the city and care about a cause as important as the nonviolence parade. They were able to see how many different groups and schools that showed up for that, and we were able to immediately make a connection on something that was important, not just YSU athletics, but everybody in the Youngstown community. I think that was a great opportunity for our team members to get involved with that.
Picking my favorite is a little bit difficult. But the one that I think kind of blew me away most recently was I had this wild idea to make Valentine's, not just Valentine's, but Valentine's Day boxes like we made in elementary school. You know, like you put all of the hearts on them and you put them out in your elementary school class, and everybody walked around and put Valentine's in them, got to open them up at the end of the day and see what you got. And so I reached out to my alma mater, South Range, which is a rural school in southern Mettille County, kind of on the Columbia County line, and also always my gift club students, and asked them to just make Valentines. The South Range students made the boxes, the YSU students made the Valentines. And, you know, my coworkers used to think I'm insane. So this was another example of they're looking at me like, what are you doing this time? So we did the Valentine's bag, and they were so beautiful and so creative. The boxes had, you know, beautiful stickers, and they were covered with foil paper, just like we had in elementary school. And we started distributing them. We had enough to distribute, not just to our hospice patients, but to some of our community partners, some of our nursing homes, and long-term care facilities. But one particular patient received them, and much of our care is not just about our patients either. We take care of our patients beyond medically. We take care of them spiritually, socially, emotionally. But we also take care of their families as well, which is a huge part of the hospice tenet. His mother, and this gentleman who's on hospice services is not young himself. His mother, who is quite experienced in life and is taking care of her son, was actually the one who received this Valentine's Day box. Which moved her to tears as she opened each individual Valentine, read that it was from a YSU student or a student at South Range, and remarked on how beautiful it was and how much it reminded her of her childhood. So talk about making intergenerational connections within our community, very simply and very inexpensively too.
Well, so for me, like you said, picking a favorite is hard, but as I mentioned earlier, my experience with Habitat for Humanity will forever be one of my favorite experience with engagement. And a bit of background, this was the spring break of COVID, so the we weren't even sure we were going to be able to come back to Ohio because like everyone was getting shut down and it was just crazy times. But YSU took about 5 of us down to Florida, Jacksonville, and we worked with Habitat for Humanity, and some other colleges were also on spring break and they brought their students, and just a bunch of college students working on building houses. So one day I was working on power tools, like cutting stuff, hammering stuff away. The next day I was painting houses. The next day I was installing electrical appliances. They'll teach you how to do it, of course. Another day I was up on the roof installing shingles. And if you know me, you know I don't do anything like physical activity. I don't work out. I don't like the outdoors. So that was very much out of my comfort zone. But hearing the stories about the people that were going to live in these houses, hearing how we're providing affordable housing to people who may not be able to afford traditional methods, really impacted me, really touched me, and I would always recommend, like, there are different Habitat for Humanity branches, like locally, globally. If you get the chance, try to give, try to volunteer your time, resources, however, shameless plug. But yes, I think that's going to be one of my most impactful experiences with engagement.
To me, there is a Habitat for Humanity poster right out here outside the Chestnut Room that some of our freshmen volunteered there this year, and I think there is a box on there about how to help. So if there's anyone who's interested in getting involved locally, that's out there.
Well, this question is kind of difficult for the type of work that Tom and I do because everything's kind of on the lowdown and secretive, because what we're doing when we're helping the FBI, they don't say we're looking for a body. they'll tell you we're looking for evidence. And I guess what would be most impactful about what we do is the ability to help bring closure to some of these cases. And when I say cold case, the first one that I worked on with Mahoney County Sheriff, there were 2 different burials and they were each over 25 years old. And so I think it's important to be able to bring closure and help us. And I think in the long run, our impact will be better understanding how to detect and locate buried evidence, and then put together the tools that and learning experiences for law enforcement, so they won't have to come to us. We might give them some advice, but they'll know how to do it themselves. So that's really what we're after. And of course, I guess one of the impacts it has is on YSU, because we're the go-to university for this kind of work. And so all the way from Van Wert, most people don't know where that is, but it's out on the Indiana line, north of Dayton. And they come to us, for this sort of help. And being on the radar with the FBI is really big to us. Thank you.
It's actually a great segue into my next question for you all. So I was hoping to learn a little bit more about how you think your involvement in the community has helped you develop personally or professionally.
Thank you. Well, it's been an experience, to say the least, interfacing with law enforcement on a professional level and a personal level. Generally, we interact with them when things are not going very well, when we have on the verge of getting a fast driving award or something much worse. So that has, I think that's done very well, and interacting with the students that have an interest in this, and the community as well, that you start mentioning body farms and putting clothes on pig carcasses as proxies for humans. That generally gathers a lot of interest in interacting with everybody to see how these signals and our ability to detect things and our approach has been very rewarding. And it really goes back to other past experiences as well, where I kind of started on this whole adventure with a research grant for teaching at inner city schools, and getting these students from this great diverse community together with very different backgrounds, from very different ages and whatnot, and having very different opinions, and being able to allow them to express these very different opinions in a very safe environment. And the outcomes were not divisions and groups. The outcomes were that everybody came together regardless of their opinions and their backgrounds, and they formed really tight bonds that exist to this day. And I've taken that and applied that to my students here at Youngstown State, and to the students involved in research. And I think it's helped my karma a little bit, and hopefully theirs as well. And with that, I will turn it over to our very capable mechanical engineer.
Thank you, appreciate that. So reflecting on how engagement has impacted me professionally and personally, I would say the biggest takeaway is the connections I've made. I have made a ton of friends, from volunteering at volunteering at Habitat, volunteering at football games, volunteering. I just make a new friend every day. And like, if you know me, everybody says to me, how do you know everybody? Well, it's because of volunteerism and like engagement. So if you feel like you don't have enough friends, just volunteer. Like, just get engaged. You're gonna meet someone new who has a very cool story to tell. I volunteered to this, I've learned about body farms, and I've learned about hospice. So there's never really know what you're gonna encounter on one of these experiences. So I would say that's one of my biggest personal impacts. But professionally, so like I said, connections are a big thing, even professionally. Someone told me the one time, it's not about what you know, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. So when you make those connections, you leave lasting impressions on people. You might do something simple, but it might mean a lot more to the person you're doing it to, and you never know where you're going to meet that connection in the future. So an example of this is not really volunteering, but I worked with the first year student services, and one of the faculty, she works in a tech company right now, and I was looking for funding for my student group, and turns out she's part of community outreach department, and they were willing to give us $1,000 because of that connection I made, and it was just a campus job. So again, volunteerism helps you connect with people. So that's my takeaway.
Tumi, you were co-op of the year, intern of the year, RA. I mean, she's very humble, so her networking has gotten her far. Our freshmen could definitely learn a thing or two from her.
So I wanted to add another layer to the question, how has our community engagement impacted our organization as a whole? Because as I mentioned, we did not have a whole, we technically did have a youth program, but we didn't have a youth survey in our youth program. And so we've changed the diversity in my organization by, I can't even do the math on that. We have anybody now. We are currently have 14 fully trained YSU students providing direct patient support. So that was 0 to 14, and I majored in creative writing, so I do not know what that maps out to. But speaking of that creative writing major, one of the reasons I'm a perpetual senior at YSU is because I already have a degree in creative writing, which is super employable, by the way. However, I was actually at YSU for this pre-Give Pulse at a volunteer fair, and I happened to be sitting next to, and I always transpose their names, so if anybody who's familiar with the organization, I apologize, at Youngstown. And I kind of leaned over and said, look, I have this crazy idea. I said, I've been working in healthcare for at that time it was probably 3 years, over the pandemic, and what I have noticed is that family members really want to share the story of the patients we're taking care of. And because I happened to be a programming director during the pandemic and really couldn't get, there were a lot of things that I wasn't allowed to do, I had a lot of time to talk to the patient's family members. And so I'd spend 30 minutes on the phone or more listening to these fabulous stories of my Alzheimer's and dementia patients before I met them, and how somebody's mother once chased a mobster out of their butcher shop with a butcher knife because she wasn't going to pay. Or their father who would work all day long, but he really loved woodwork, and he'd come home and he would make intervention tools for students with learning disabilities. They wanted me to know their family members before I met them and before the disease had taken them. So I said, I really think there may be some therapeutic intervention in writing, and they said, oh yes, that's absolutely one of the things that we do. One of the core directors was, I believe, a BSW or an MSW, and led therapeutic writing workshops. And so not only have I found a way to take that creative writing degree that I really didn't know quite what to do with it other than to write really bad science fiction, and bring it into my current field. But we started with Columbiana County. We opened it. These sessions need to be very small because you're going to share things that you've written. So we were able to, we opened one in Columbiana County. We had a cap of 10. We filled that within a week. So we opened one in Boardman as well, and again filled it within a week. And we're able to touch these people and allow them to express a really heavy, talked about natural emotion that we all experience at some point in our life, unfortunately grief, but never actually expressed. So professionally and personally, having these connections and reaching out into the community and asking for help when you don't quite know how to pull something off has made a huge difference for me.
I would say one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I've gotten from our student athletes, I can think of one in particular, a football player and a volleyball player came to my office after one of their outreach opportunities. We partner with local elementary schools all throughout the city of Youngstown, and our students will go in and help read and help with schoolwork and just kind of be mentors or big sisters or big brothers to these to the youth. And the football player and volleyball player came to my office, and they had the same message of, I couldn't believe how quickly the kid loved me and just was attached at the hip immediately. And they were able to recognize, and I've watched them grow up in my office in front of my eyes, have the realization of how important it is to have great role models and great leaders within a community for the youth to look up to. Immediately they had somebody to look up to. I want to be like her, I want to be like him, I want to get to university, I want to try and play sport, I want to major in this. They're asking their teachers, when are they coming back? I've had their principals reaching out, when can you send more students over? And I think the personal and professional development that our athletes have gotten from connecting with youth, specifically if they've been underprivileged or underserved schools, they may not have as much support at home. They go in there and, our students and our student athletes, and many of you, I'm sure, when you were in school, you may have had somebody come speak to you about how important it is to work hard in the classroom or practice hard in your sport or make sure you go to college, make sure you get your degree. You never know if those kids are hearing it in the school that they're currently in. I'm sure their teachers are trying their absolute best. But to hear it from a young person who's currently in college, maybe they wore their jerseys in there and they think it looks really cool. But it gave our student athletes the opportunity to realize how important it is to serve in that role in your community. And now maybe that kid at the elementary school is coming to one of the games on the weekends, and now they're a consistent fan, and they decide to be a student here at YSU down in the future. So I think giving back specifically to an underserved youth demographic has been so important for the development of our student athletes here.
So listening to your responses definitely reassured me we picked the right people for this panel, because I'm really astounded by the depth and breadth of your experiences, that between the research, the professional service, the personal service, it has differed, and been such a wide impact on our community. So the last question I'm going to ask before turning it over to our audience, I'm looking around this room and I see a lot of freshmen, some community partners, but probably a lot of people who are just now becoming engaged in our community. So I wanted to know if any of you have a piece of advice for someone who's hoping to become more engaged, whether they've never volunteered a day in their life, or maybe they already have a consistent partner, but they're inspired by your stories. So what would you tell them?
Just go. Nobody's going to tell you no for volunteering, and you will always feel better after you do it. And so if you're nervous to go alone, grab a friend, grab 5 friends, just whatever you got to do to get out the door. There are countless opportunities to get involved and give back. We're very lucky to be from a great city here in Youngstown, or not from, but currently be in. We've got people in this room from all over the world, as we've heard. And just get out the door and get involved. The city appreciates it, and so many people need it.
And I think no matter your background or where you come from or where you've traveled to be here or your age, you have unique experiences, talents, and skills. And while you might not quite know how to apply that to community engagement and community service, your skills and talents are much needed. I have a volunteer who is retired as an executive assistant and loves to file paperwork. I do not. So she is one of my favorite people. And it might not have been something that she necessarily immediately thought of when she thought of serving hospice hours, but wow, does that make a huge difference. Avery has made several of these for me, and she just dropped off some, and I had to steal it because it's a fidget. I needed it to make it through. And this is an amazing tool to combat boredom or terminal agitation is something that a lot of my patients experience, but also Alzheimer's and dementia patients. This gives them something to work through for a while and distract from whatever disconnect is going on in their mind. And it's probably not something that she thought of when she took up knitting and crocheting a few years ago. But here you go, she's made a huge impact in the medical field by crocheting something. So you guys have those talents, you have those skills, you have that experience and that background, and reach out. And I promise you the person on the other line is going to find a way to apply those skills to someone who really needs them.
To add to what they said, I would just advise you, like, don't worry about not knowing how to do something. Like, you're gonna learn. Like, also an advice someone told me, like, if you apply for something and you're overwhelmed with how much or how big of a shoe you have to fill, imagine how much more you have grown after the experience. So you're always gonna add to a skill whenever you try to do something you're not good at. So don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to do something you normally wouldn't do. Don't be afraid to do something you feel unqualified for. Just do it, and you learn along the way. So that's my own tip.
Yeah, I just want to say dittos to the others' point of view here, and to encourage everyone to get involved in one aspect or another. There are so many wonderful people out there in the community with just such fascinating stories and life experiences, regardless of where your volunteerism takes you. Learning from that and the reward from that will just be unbelievable, and will create memories for you and for them for a long time. So, as the advertisement used to say back in the 80s or the 70s, dating ourselves, just do it.
Well, first, I have to echo what everybody else has said. Don't be afraid to get involved in things. Just step right in and do it. In all the years I've been doing community service, I've never once had anybody say, no, we don't want your help. Everybody wants your help. And if you don't know, or you're not confident that you have all the knowledge to help in the matters, jump in anyway. That's how you learn. That's how you learn. And so, it's a wonderful world out there, and the more you do in your life, the more opportunities come your way. And so that's a good takeaway from it.
Well, thank you guys again for that advice. And before we open up to audience questions, let's give our panelists a round of applause. All right, so I'm willing to bring the mic to anyone that has a question. If you're an introvert that's shy, just whisper your question to the nearest extrovert, and we will get it answered by our panel. So, on that note, does anyone have a first question for our panel? Okay, it's always hardest the first time, so. You can see the wheels turning. It's almost the end of the semester. They're a little tired. We're a little tired, right? Any questions? All the way in the back. I'm coming, Nikki.
My question is for Tumi. How would you advise people who want to volunteer for like the volunteer opportunities that are off campus and like don't know how to get there?
That's a very good question, and it's a problem that I struggle with a lot of the time. But reaching out to the people who are organizing that the opportunity is always a good thing. I know whenever I had to go to the Saturday of Caring, I reached out to Presley or Molly to see if anybody could give me a ride. So that's what I would encourage. So maybe bringing a friend that does have a car could also be a good thing. But I know that's something a lot of international students struggle with and moving around in general. But yeah, thank you for the question.
And I'll just echo what Tumi has said. I know sometimes we get questions in honors, and a student will reach out to us and be like, I want to go do this thing, it's off campus, and it's easy enough for us to email out to those people who are also volunteering. There's always someone coming from campus to go out to volunteer with Habitat for Humanity, to go to our Saturdays of Caring with United Way. So again, it never hurts to ask, right? So if there's something that you think you're really interested in, then just go ahead and give it a shot.
Well, if can I
absolutely
that question,
sure.
Because that was one of the #1 things that was said to me when I said let's work with YSU students is we've tried working with college students and they don't have it. So We have plenty of opportunities that you guys can do here from campus or wherever you call home, but on top of that, a lot of my students who did want to do direct patient hours partnered up. And so then not only did they have a life, they were going together. They didn't have that added anxiety of being by themselves in these first experiences. So it actually, and then meanwhile, the patients in turn got 2 people to come visit them. Some of my patients don't have any family members. So they had 2 young people coming to visit them, spend time with them and joke and play puzzles. That's a win-win-win situation.
Great points. Do you have another audience question? Nikki did such a great job of breaking the ice.
Can we pose questions to the audience?
Sure.
So, with the winter hopefully behind us, I'm not sure if Mother Nature's made up her mind or not, but with winter behind us, the clandestine evidence-seeking component of what we do really picks up. In fact, we have a really interesting project with the FBI in Cleveland coming up pretty soon here. And if there's anybody out there that's interested in volunteering to help with these, it's community service. It's a good opportunity to do some pretty interesting work and mingle with some. The FBI are really cool people to work with. So they really are. They're normal people. They talk shop just like you and I would, but they always have cool, interesting stuff to work on. So if anybody would like to get involved in this, you can reach out to me directly, jcdick@ysu.edu, or maybe through the Honors College, you get a hold of us, and we'd be more than happy to put you to work, because most of the stuff we do requires a small army of people.
And this is a great opportunity to mention that in our electronic program, which the QR code you can scan out there has the information for our program. All of our presenter information, including contact information, is listed there. So if you're up here today and you're listening and you want to get involved in the body farms, or you're inspired by Tumi and you're hoping to know how she got involved as a student, you want to know more about the Nonviolence Parade, you want to make whatever that is, Chary.
Very therapeutic.
Love it. So if you have any of these skills, you want to contact any presenter that you saw today, I'm sure they'd be willing to talk to you more about their projects and their passions. So we're getting down to our last few minutes here. Are there any final questions for our panel? I'm looking at a whole bunch of my students. I have Nate and Nate. One of the Nates I'm sure can come up with a question. Here I come. Yeah. They sat in the front, it's their fault. I don't know what to say. They knew I was coming. All right, my Nates. Can someone save the Nates? They're starting to sweat. I won't pick on them too much. They're tired. They're freshmen. They didn't know what they were getting into today. So on that note, let's give one more round of applause for our So before everyone takes off, I'll just take another minute to say that our check-in was out in the front area over here by Chestnut. If you haven't had the chance to check in, please do so. Again, check out our program, get in contact with our panelists. Their bios are in there. They were so humble today. There was so much more that they could have said about themselves, I'm sure. So thank you all again for attending today, and we will be talking